I haven't looked at Staples stock lately or what the compensation of the CEO is, but I suspect that they could well afford to treat their workers favorably and give them some basic financial security. And if they can't, then they should be willing to allow those workers to get the Affordable Care Act without cutting wages. When I hear large corporations that make billions of dollars in profits trying to blame our interest in providing health insurance as an excuse for cutting back workers' wages, shame on them.
Was it me, or would that have been perfect with the theme from The Godfather underneath? Really? I mean, never mind Staples is saying that it's not cutting hours due to Obamacare and the president doesn't have all his facts. Is this singling out of a company by the president a little over the top? Charlie Gasparino and Tracy Burns say shame on him. Democratic strategist Jessica Tarlow says the president is right. So, Jessica, to you first, you think he makes a good case? What?
I think he makes a good case, not necessarily against Staples, because it looks like the numbers don't bear it out, and that's obviously a mistake and shouldn't have happened.
Details.
Well, exactly. But the general point, I stand by the president with that. I mean, companies, they don't want to pay for health insurance for their employees, a lot of them. I mean, people are scaling back people to be part-time workers. They're hiring more contractors who they're then now going to have to cover for health insurance. And I think that's really the point that the president's making.
The little irony here is that Staples does provide health care to those workers and those part-time workers. But be that as it may, why Staples?
There's so many things intrinsically wrong with this, Neil. First of all, Staples' policy has been 25 hours all along. They never said it had anything to do with Obamacare, but the president is crazy to think that corporations are not looking at the cost of Obamacare and how it is affecting their bottom line. And the notion that the president thinks he can control how companies hire and fire is an even bigger enigma to me. I mean, it's truly none of his business. He has no place there.
If they weren't providing health care at all, I might argue he could make a point, but they do.
I just think it's odd that the president is tougher on Staples and fat cat bankers than he is with ISIS. I mean, you know, I mean, you know, this guy relishes beating up on American corporations. He has none of the same zeal when he goes after terrorists who cut people's heads off. That would be one thing. And the other thing is, the President Obama is a lawyer. Allegedly a constitutional lawyer. He was head of the Harvard Law Review. And he doesn't understand the notion of fiduciary responsibility. Okay, Staples, I don't necessarily believe their BS about this isn't Obamacare related. Maybe, yeah. I bet it is.
Thank you.
But they have that right. They have not just a right, but a duty.
But what about the moral responsibility to take care of your employees?
But they are. They are taking care of them.
I would like to move the conversation past Staples. If we can accept that was a mistake.
Do you understand fiduciary responsibility?
I think so.
What is it?
Well, don't talk down to
but
you're saying that they have an obligation. Yeah, they make money, but that's a right. But they also have an obligation to their shareholders.
But here it is. The president doesn't know what fiduciary responsibility is. He's a lawyer, and he doesn't know that when you increase the cost, if you keep the corporate tax rate higher than it is in other countries, if you heap a mandate on corporations, they are going to do stuff to maintain their margins because under U.S. corporate law, that's what they're supposed to do.
Look, we've seen this
by the way, Staples did give us a statement here. Unfortunately, the president appears not to have all the facts. Our policy regarding hours for part-time employees is more than a decade old. It predates the Affordable Care Act by several years. It is unfortunate that the president is attacking a company that provides more than 85,000 jobs and is a major taxpayer. On that point, Jess, it does make a good point.
Absolutely.
More than 35,000 of those are part-time workers. You would think, first reading that they're not getting any health care. The company's providing health care. It's just not meeting the president's standards of health care. So
yeah. But I think
why is he doing this?
I think he's doing it to make a larger point. And, I mean, it's the idea that he doesn't care about ISIS. I mean, he just asked for authorization today, right, for more.
Took two people getting,
but not ground troops. We're going to get side of field. But on this, do you think he picks and chooses his corporate enemies? Because he just had Tim Cook at the White House, and Tim Cook makes all those iPhones in Asia.
I don't think that it looks great.
Okay. Trace.
Look, we've seen it before. Applebee's, Papa John's, medical device companies all laying off because of the cost of Obamacare. And think
the redefinition of what is full-time.
And I think Charlie's absolutely right. I think Staples trying to hide behind the 25-hour policy. Yeah. Obamacare is absolutely a reason. I mean, it's got to be.
All these companies have to, toe a corporate line. So, of course, they're going to say it has nothing to do with it. But if you tell me that a company's not going to react by cutting jobs, cutting wages, cutting hours, when they're faced with increased mandates from Obamacare, a highest corporate tax rate.
What did you think of they make billions in profits when in fact they're so hard up they're closing 200 stores by the end of this year, and they're merging with Office Depot. That's even less profitable.
Exactly. But what does the president think? Companies make money. Okay, they make profit. The more profits they make,
right, it's not
the more.
But Apple making trillions upon trillions, and I should disclose I'm an Apple shareholder. That's fine by me. That's okay.
And Apple's stock price, market share, is almost $1 trillion right now.
Right.
It's the biggest company in the world.
I guess what I'm saying is that you can't. You have to be fair and balanced about this, right? You have to make sure if you have a problem with one company, you have a problem with all companies that might or might not be towing your healthcare line.
Absolutely, and I don't think that the president has been clear-cut on this, but I would say also, you know, there's a drain on American businesses when they have to provide healthcare, but there's also a huge drain on the federal budget and the deficit.
But again, we're missing the point that Staples does.
Right, but I think we need to really move past Staples. I'm totally willing to go.
But for part-time workers, it's one of the few companies, ironically, that does.
Yes, and in that sense, this really was a huge mistake. I looked at the numbers, and it goes back to well before 2008.
You think someone would have given him a Post-it?
But isn't
look at you.
But isn't the bigger point that it's none of his business?
A little condescending, but I admired that. Yes. Tracy making her final appearance. Go ahead.
I love Post-its, Neil.
Sure.
Isn't the bigger point that he shouldn't be in corporation? He shouldn't be in the boardroom. It's not his place
to
decide
in the boardroom. He's the
who is hiring or firing. It's not his place.
He would not be the first president to jawbone to get his way.
I mean, listen, I think presidents have been, playing the populist card for many years. I just think he takes
They have the pulpit.
They have the pulpit, and I don't have a problem with that. But he takes it to another level. I mean, to attack a company for, listen, we're not talking about Citigroup, by the way, which nearly destroyed the U.S. economy, who had employed his former Treasury Secretary. Okay, we're not talking about it. We're talking about Staples.
It's Staples. Yeah. That was easy. Guess it wasn't. All right, now to the ISIS.